Okay, so for our AR verbs, we're only focusing on the verbs that end in AR. Next chapter, we're going to do verbs that end in ER and IR, but we have one pattern for the present tense that will let us conjugate all these verbs in the same way. So we have, like I just said, 3 verb families, AR, ER, IR, but for now we're only focusing on AR verbs. If you haven't seen the 501 Spanish verbs book in the bookstores, there's 501. There's actually an updated 555 book for 555 verbs in Spanish. And if you open it up, you look at the verb, and it conjugates the verb in every single tense there is. We're only on step number 1 up here, present tense. So there's lots of things coming up, but we won't do it all, of course, in Spanish one. So just for AR verbs is what we're focusing on. It is the largest family of verbs. You only have 38 of them this time. Last time we had 64, but we're going to add more as we get to Spanish too. Okay. All right, so some examples of AR verbs. What's to help? Ayudar. Good. And to walk? Caminar. Good. And to sing? Cantar. Good. And to buy? Comprar. Good. And to desire, wish or desire? Desear. Desear. Now, we're going to talk about this later today or tomorrow, that desear or necesitar, there's one more verb that I can't think of right now on your list, are common verbs that you'll see in front of other verbs, like I wish to swim, I wish to dance. I hope to swim, I hope to dance. So we're going to see how when we have 2 verbs in a row, we're only going to conjugate one of them, always the first one, to agree with your subject. To teach, enseñar, good. And to enter, we do not have on our list, is entrar, which is a cognate, so easy to tell. To listen, we added to our list, escuchar, good. Okay. And to study, estudiar, good. To speak, hablar, to speak or talk. To arrive, we don't have llegar, which is different than llevar. You change the one letter in there and you change the whole entire meaning of the verb. Llevar is to wear, carry, or bring. So you just have to be careful with one word, not always, but one letter can change the whole entire meaning of a word, or one accent can change the whole entire meaning of a word, like we've had with el with an accent, el without. To with an accent, to without. They're different words. Okay. To look at. Mirar, good. To need. That's the other important one I forgot. I need to cook. I need to study. I need to something. So even when you hear in the sentence, and we'll talk more specifically about it later, but you hear I need, which is conjugated for I, to study. So to study won't get conjugated because it is the verb to study. The infinitive form is the form that has the AR attached to it. It's not conjugated. Nobody's actually studying. There's just a need to study. So we'll talk more about that. To travel, viajar, good. And to visit, visitar, which is a cognate. So that's good. Okay, a few more. To look for is different than to look at. Buscar, good. You look for a bus or a car. And that same PowerPoint that we went over with helping you to remember the meanings of the verbs that you will have to know for tomorrow and for the test on Friday is uploaded to my website. So if that helped you and you want to go over it again, it's there for your reference. To answer or reply, contestar, good. So contestant answers the question. To wait for, to hope or wait for is what we have. Esperar, good. And to take or carry or wear, in our case, is the more common one since we have clothing vocabulary. Llevar, good. So llevar and llegar, which is the one we don't have. One letter changes there. And to pass, we don't have, but again, pasar is a cognate, again. To prepare, also a cognate, preparar. And so infinitive is a fancy word for a form of a verb that ends in AR, which means it's not agreeing with anybody. Hablar is just to talk. Nobody's actually talking. It's just the meaning of the verb, to talk or speak. Okay? So we talked about it having two parts. The stem is the beginning part. Once you drop the AR, you're left over with the stem. This is the part that you need to make sure that you copy exactly word for word so that your spelling isn't off on your quiz. When we switch these verbs, when I ask you, like the practice that we just did, you had the verbs in Spanish. We're about to switch to verbs in English, so I'm just going to give you to speak. But on your quiz and on your test, I'm going to give you a verb bank to help you so that when you look at to speak, you're like, oh, I started with an H, and then you look at the list, and you look at hablar, and you make sure you spell hablar correctly. So make sure that you have the stem of it correct, and then, of course, the ending is what we're going to take away the AR to make it agree with the subject to actually conjugate the verb. O, as, a, amos, and then ice we don't need to remember, and an. O, as, a, amos, an are your endings to make it agree with your each of your subjects, which of course you have to know your subject pronouns to do that. Oh, I didn't make that one big. But so to form the present tense of AR verbs, all we do is take away the AR and add the correct ending that goes with. That's why we learned the subject pronouns in the box and learned the verbs in the box the same exact way. The first person singular is the yo form, and the first thing in the first box is O. So take away the AR, add an O. Hablo is I speak. And the other endings, or let's just go through the endings. Yo ending for anything making agree with the yo form is O. And the to form is yes, good. And el, ella, usted. Okay, and so they have, it's separate here, but it's just in the same box. We put it in the same box because it's the same ending. Okay. Nosotros or nosotras or anybody and I. Okay, amos, good. We do not need to know vosotros, but the ustedes, ellos, and ellas form is an. Okay, so an at the end. All right, so hablar, how do we conjugate hablar? Okay, take away the AR, so yo hablo, tú hablas, él, ella, usted habla, nosotros or nosotras hablamos. We don't need to know vosotros because we substitute it with ustedes, which is hablan, and then the same for ellos and ellas. Okay. Another one, canto, I sing. Okay, cantas, you sing, you informal. Anyone else that's singular is going to be canta. Now, so keep in mind that if you have a singular subject, you can only look on the left side of the box. When you jump over to the plural side, then obviously you can't have any singular subjects to make it agree. So, nosotros cantamos, we sing, and ellos, ellas, or ustedes cantan. Difference in meaning between ustedes, you all, you plural. So we use the you plural formal, ustedes, instead of the you plural informal, which is vosotros. Okay, and then ellos, ellas, they, but still in the same box. Okay. Canto, yo canto, means what? I sing. Tú caminas. You walk. Okay. Él mira. He looks at. Perfect. And usted visita. Not they. You. Now, you all is plural. Usted is just you. You formal. You formal visit. Okay. Nosotros hablamos. We speak. In this case, we masculine. Vosotros we're not going to do, but ellos estudian would mean they, in this case, a whole bunch of guys or guys and girls, mixed group gender of people. Okay. All right, so if the subject of a sentence is singular, then you can always, of course, use usted or el, ella form. It will always end in an A for AR verbs. If it's plural, it'll end in AN for AR verbs for plural conjugation. So Just those are the ones that we use more often. When we're looking at the box, we use the bottom two the most because those are the ones that have way more choices. You can only use the first box for the yo form, the second box for the to form. But the bottom box for anything else that's singular, you use the a. Anything else that's plural, that doesn't include myself, you use an. Okay, I sing would be canto. Make sure you hear that ending exactly right. And you technically don't need to put the yo there because the o already tells me that it can only be the yo form. Okay. She walks. Camina. Good. We masculine study. Good. And they masculine look at. Miran. Careful with to look at and to look for. You informal. So it can only be singular informal because we're not using the you plural informal. Visit. Tu visitas. Good. All right. And let's go to Kahoot.it and we're going to Kahoot it.